Of course, I will show you the way to the road. First, we must gather a coven.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy. So Agatha All Along wrapped last week, and man was this show a joy to cover. Every single week we brought you breakdowns, Easter egg analysis theories, but now that we have the entire picture, we wanted to go back and grab like any Easter eggs that we missed the first time around. And believe me, the detailing on this show was so precise. There were a lot of things that frankly we just didn't catch the first time. So we scoured our Discord server, our comments, and Agatha's behind the scenes videos for some pretty amazing details that we have not seen in any other MCU project. So we're going to go through every single episode and break down all the Easter eggs we missed. Grab on, this is going to be fun. And before we get rolling, I want to remind you guys, we are going on tour. We have a live show coming to 11 cities starting in Boston next week. You can find tickets below. We're going to nerd out together. I want to meet you guys face to face. It's going to be a lot of fun. The first place to look is the costume choice for each Coven member, starting with Agatha. Once freeing herself from Wanda's spell, Agatha puts her hair up in a Gibson Girl inspired updo, which was to convey a witch who loved to be in control.
If you want to be in control, you can be.
As the show went on and Agatha spent time on the road, her hair became undone, flowing looser and wilder. By the time she regains her powers in episode 8, her hair flows out as she lets loose with Rio. Or if that's what you kids are calling it these days. So before she magically created her cloak, there was a cool detail in her jacket that she wore on the road. The inside of the jacket is adorned with a murder of crows.
Hey, that's pretty messed up, person. She's got dead birds in her jacket.
No, a murder of crows is just what it's called. It's like a flock of birds.
Oh. Continue.
Anyways, the top of her jacket near the neck is where the most birds are embroidered, but as you follow the design downwards, the crows morph into runes. This is fitting because not only are crows a sign of personal and spiritual growth in witchcraft, but symbolically these crows could represent all the witches that Agatha scammed after she lost her son. Just like the crows become runes, those victims became batteries that Agatha could drain. When Rio finally reveals her death outfit, there is a piece of real obsidian lodged in the center of her harness, representing the black heart that only beats for Agatha.
You don't have a heart.
Yes, I do. It's black, and it beats for you.
The costume designers also wanted each outfit to focus on Rio's ribs to give her a skeletal look paired with her face makeup. Billy's costumes also have amazing detail to them. We're introduced to the teen in a blue hoodie with runes etched into the sweater, which could have been foreshadowing. But we also know that William Kaplan was really into magic, so he could have just done that for fun. After Billy is wounded in episode 4, though, his outfits get progressively more red, like his blood stain, and his blue eventually becomes his red superhero cape. And that Wiccan design, I mean, that was a moment. I was screaming at the screen. So, speaking of his cape, the outside of it features patterning from WandaVision, while the inside is the same as Vision's cape. It's almost like Billy is representing both of his parents. And those same WandaVision runes are seen on his torso, and his pants are starry, just like his comic book look. Now, the other witches in the main coven have little details in their early costumes that almost spoil the show. Like Lilia's jacket is decorated with red towers that call back to when she was a kid taking lessons with her maestra, and of course, this.
The tower. Upright.
Jen's earrings look eerily similar to her comic book headband. With how she leaves Westview at the end of the show, maybe we'll see her again in her full witch gear, possibly with the Midnight Suns. And the design of her necklace also represents her being bound. The chains trap a pink rose quartz in the centerpiece, the same color as her powers will be at the end of the show. Now, my favorite costume detail, though, has to go to Alice. She wears this necklace that looks like claws are clinging to the back of her neck, just like we'll see the demon perch on her shoulders in episode 4. That and the burning house in the back of her jacket really sells us on how weighed down she feels from this curse. Only when she releases the curse is she able to fulfill her duty as a protection witch and then save Agatha at the cost of her life. But when death comes for her, the necklace and her heavy jacket are gone from her physical body, letting the audience know that in her final moments, she lived freely. One thing that really impressed me about Agatha All Along were all these hidden details along the way. They made the show so much more rewarding when you watch it through, like for the second or third time. And frankly, guys, I needed the distraction because this election is like omnipresent in our lives. It feels like it's been nonstop politics for months now. But the thing is, if you want to stay informed, it's actually really hard to know what news source you can trust. We all tend to live in little bubbles of misinformation on the internet, where our own algorithm only feeds us information that we want to hear. And of course, this really all benefits the giant media conglomerates who are just trying to up engagement for higher ad revenue. So, if you want to cut through all that bias and hear the real news, I recommend Ground News. They're the sponsor of this video. I use Ground News every day. I like it so much I subscribed on my own. Ground News is an app and website that gathers related articles from across the world into one place, but they give you the context about the source's political leaning, their reliability, and their ownership. This means that you can see through the bias and think critically about the news you consume. For instance, here's a story from a couple days ago where Trump talked about how much he would like to see the news media get shot at one of his rallies. I can see here that there were 225 sources, 46 left, 17 right, and 62 in the center. I can see each source, how they lean, and most importantly, who owns them. Now, I thought it was interesting that left-leaning sites focused on him saying he'd like to see the press get shot, while right-leaning sites emphasized how he regretted leaving the White House. Especially during election season, I want to know that the news isn't trying to sway me one way or the other. They even have a blind spot section which shows you news stories that each side is ignoring. Now, this article has 40 sources, but only one of them is left-leaning, and right-wing sources tend to note that Tehran implied use of previously unused weaponry. While for the right, here's a story about Jacksonville police punching fans at a Jaguars game, which has been unreported by right-leaning organizations. This is an incredible resource, and I've been looking for a service like Ground News for years, so I highly encourage you to check them out. If you go to groundnews.com/SC or click this QR code, you'll get 50% off their Vantage plan, which includes unlimited access to every feature. This is their best deal of the year, and it's only available for a limited time. Your subscription will not only help out our channel, but you'll also be supporting an independent platform working to make the media landscape more transparent. Now, back to Agatha. Another great aspect of the show was the music. Now, I know many of us have heard the Ballad of the Witch's Road on repeat these past few weeks. Now, when our coven sings the ballad for the first time, the bell that Agatha starts the song with is the same bell we see her son steal in episode 9, which is just painfully sad that she has kept it this long. Speaking of sad, Alice is crying during the song because it reminds her of her mother. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, Sharon is singing along, similar to how she sings along with Vision in episode 1 of WandaVision.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
E-I-E-I-O.
When Rio blasts open Agatha's door, we hear Rio's theme for the first time. So the loud leitmotif sound is very similar to Oh Death by Jen Titus. Not only that, but the gust of wind that blows Agatha into the wall is foreshadowing the green tornado we'll see in episode 8. Other than the ballad, the song choices made throughout the show are great. For example, Cowboys Are Frequently Secretly Fond of Each Other by Orville Peck plays on the radio when Billy and Eddie have their first kiss. The song talks about closeted cowboys and feelings that aren't fully understood. It applies to Eddie's thoughts that we can hear because of Billy, but also how Billy will feel in this flashback episode, not fully understanding who he is. Now, we pointed out the Billie Eilish poster in our episode 9 breakdown, but we forgot some key details. The album is titled When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? Which is funny because the last time we saw Billy's mom, she was dreamwalking to find him. And this is also the same album where we first heard this.
You should see me in a crowd.
Okay, so now we're going to get into our fan-submitted Easter eggs. A lot of these come from our Discord server, which by the way is free to join, and it's a really great community. It was so much fun discussing each episode of Agatha with you guys as each episode dropped. Links for the Discord are below, it's free, and it's a lot of fun, you should check us out. Epic Worm Dude and Jess on our Discord pointed out that the promotional material for Agatha All Along indicated what each episode was about by using different fonts. Episode 1 is typewritten out like a true crime headline, while episode 2 includes a pentagram as the first time that we see the road. Episodes 3, 4, and 5 have fonts relating to each of the trials featured in the episode. Episode 6 seems normal but has a red circle around it, possibly because the episode features the hex again, or because it's the episode where we learn Billy's backstory. Episode 7 is covered in roots, similar to where Jen and Lilia find themselves underneath the road, and episode 8 uses a futuristic font matching the final trial in Agatha's basement that looks like a morgue. Jess also predicted that Lilia would die before episode 7 release based off of this scene after the Coven first entered the road. Starting from the back of the group, Mrs. Hart died, followed by Alice, and Lilia sacrificed herself. The way this is framed, it feels like death is slowly catching up to each member in the group, both metaphorically and literally, when actual death in the form of Rio joins the Coven. Next in line after Lilia is Jennifer, but she makes it out alive, so the symbolism could have stopped at Lilia, or Jen might be meeting her doom in a future MCU project before Billy and Agatha. Agatha do? Speaking of Lilia, Vesper on our Discord pointed out that the phrase, "your path winds out of time" in her tarot trial is really similar to this line in Lorna Wu's version of the Ballad of the Witch's Road. The road is wild and wicked, winding out of time. Now, a few lines later, the lyrics go, "But take a breath and dance with death. My love cannot be turned." They theorized that an act of love will save the day, but we assumed it would be romantic love towards Rio. Instead, Agatha's motherly love for her son and the part of Nicholas that she sees in Billy is what spurred her to sacrifice herself. And I want to quickly let you guys know that our Agatha parody merch is only going to be on our merch store for a little bit longer. In about a week, we're going to remove the Witch Brat shirt, the Beast Tarot card, and get on losers, we're flying the cursed road. And we also have lots of other fun parody Marvel shirts, like one of my favorites. Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself. Shopping our merch store is the best way to directly support our channel. You can find links to those shirts and some of my other favorites down below in the description. Now, back to the Easter eggs. Dylan built on our theory of what if Lilia had a hand in creating tarot in the MCU. Since she was around reading tea leaves in the 1500s, could the tarot cards be based on her future coven members?
What do you mean by that, person?
Well, think about it. She experienced her life in fragments, so it's possible that for cards like Death and the Three of Pentacles, that she was taking inspiration from Rio and the coven singing in Agatha's basement. A lot of the tarot cards in her deck reflect her future friends, like the Magician card looking like Billy and the Three of Swords looking like Agatha. Ryan, cool name by the way, linked episode 6 with the structure of the Wizard of Oz. Both Dorothy and William visit a fortune teller who ends up being a strong figure in the places they visit. The fortune teller becomes the great and powerful Wizard of Oz, and Lilia realizes who Billy is while dressed as Glinda the Good Witch. Cannot believe that we missed that. Chris Powers and Dev both pointed out when Agatha calls Tommy Toby, it could be a nod to The Labyrinth, another story featuring the main character on the search for her brother.
Give me the child.
Sarah, beware. I have been generous up until now, but I can be cruel.
So, Harbinger of Chaos pointed out that when Billy searches for Agatha in episode 6, 333 results pop up, which is an angel number. But Dev and Spider-Man on our Discord pointed out that 333 could also symbolize half of 666, the devil's number.
Just so you know, with this purchase of a soul, I will also give a soul to a child in need.
Yeah, I don't want that.
This would represent how Billy and Tommy were shards of Mephisto, the literal devil in the comics. AJ Snackslord, that's a great name, drew a comparison between Billy and Wanda's different hexes. Since Wanda loves sitcoms, we saw fourth wall breaks in WandaVision conveyed by cameras that Agatha was operating. But because of Billy's love for musical theater, Rio breaks the fourth wall in episode 8 when she cuts through the background like a theater set. You can see this love of theatrics in the different aspect ratios and camera tricks for the first two trials as well. Along these same lines, in Billy's room, we see a poster for this famous episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That episode, called Once More with Feeling, is about Buffy coping with recently having been resurrected from death, just like Billy is. Now, over on YouTube, Psychosis and John Byrne pointed out that Agatha's feet curl up when she dies, just like the Wicked Witch of the East. Not to mention that Dorothy finds her way home in The Wizard of Oz by clicking her heels together, just like Billy finds his way home by putting on the shoes once again. It all comes back to the shoes. Now, over on our Discord, a user named Blue pointed out these Blu-rays left behind in Ralph's closet. Now, we did catch that in our video, but we did not catch the guitar right next to the DVDs, which Ralph played in WandaVision. Gus Teg 83 on our episode 8 breakdown said that the road is like an Ouroboros when the coven reaches the beginning again. So this is the classic image of a snake eating its own tail that was featured a lot in Loki season 2. It's meant to represent the cycle of destruction and rebirth, similar to how Rio represented life and death through nature. But also, Billy and Agatha both undergo a rebirth by the end of the series. Aldo the Apache caught that episode 6 Reddit parody displayed a user named 4th Level Warlock, which is funny on many levels. For starters, 4th Level Warlocks have access to the spell Borrow Knowledge, which is ironic for Agatha, who steals power from other witches. It's also ironic for Billy in this episode because he has the borrowed body of William Kaplan. Not only that, but Agatha and Billy are really similar to warlocks, since they both get their powers from an outer source. In the comics, though, Billy hates being called a warlock and insists that he is a witch. And finally, our intern Elias, who helped us out so much all season long, pointed out how important the Moon Tarot card is to Billy's realization in episode 8. The card features dogs howling at the moon, just like William's dog who barked at Billy in episode 6. It focuses heavily on the conscious and unconscious mind and symbolizes that your imagination is getting the best of you through illusions, fear, and anxiety. Just like how the road was a kind of illusion and Billy's realization comes with the anxiety that he has inadvertently killed his own coven members. Well guys, That's all the Easter eggs that we didn't find the first time around, but I also want to remind you that tickets to our live show are selling out fast, and we cannot wait to meet you guys face to face. And hey, if you want to be there to call out anything that we missed, the best place to do so is on our Discord. The links are below. Once you're there, you can interact with me and Ethan Ing, who, by the way, was the writer of this video. Special shout out to him. But are there any other Agatha Easter eggs that we missed? If so, leave them in the comments below, or you can @ me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe, smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.